Have you noticed that magic is real in Bluey's world? The most curious thing is that only some characters can use it. And it's not just a simple joke, friends. Throughout the episodes of Bluey, they've given us very obvious evidence that apparently the Healer family has some strange knowledge of how magic works. So in this video, we're going to discuss all these events and see if magic actually exists in the world of Bluey. Let's go to where it all began, the magic xylophone. And let me tell you, this episode is pretty interesting because here they showed us the first magical object in the world of Bluey. And it's about this xylophone with which Bluey and Bingo have the power to freeze people.
Frozen!
Many of us would think that it's actually just a game where the girls and Bandit agreed to play along. Maybe the day before. But if this had been the case, I think things would have been a little different. Well, since it's a game, there would have to be rules. And speaking of rules, Bluey is number one at following them, just like we saw in the Shadow game. This is where, my friends, we first suspect the existence of magic. And as soon as Bluey was frozen by Bandit, Bingo kept running and wasn't affected by the magic.
Frozen.
Friends, I'm sure that if it had been planned, Bluey would have unfrozen and complained to Bingo about why she didn't stay frozen when it was clearly her turn to be frozen. Also, with the power of the xylophone, Bingo was able to talk to Bluey so she would respect her turn.
Do you want to do everything?
I'll unfreeze you if you promise to respect my turns.
And knowing Bluey, honestly, we saw her very calm here, so that Bingo wouldn't follow the rules. Anyway, this is the first and smallest proof we have of magic. Let's continue with something a little stronger. Well, in this next episode, everything starts to get much stranger. And it's about a spy game. And in this episode, they show us how the kids try to control the adults through a potion. A potion? What? Where did you get this crazy idea from? The strangest thing is that Bluey is the one who runs the whole game. Besides, it teaches kids that you can control adults with this potion. And come on guys, it's not just a simple game. They even go as far as getting a few hairs from each of the adults. Now this really sounds more like a real witch's potion. The crazy thing about all this is that in the end it actually works. Remember, we mentioned earlier that not everyone can handle magic. Here they give us this first clue. Well, Mackenzie isn't convinced that he needs the potion to control his parents, so he simply suggests using a wand and that's it.
What if we just use this wand instead?
Does only the potion control adults?
But apparently none of this works. And even when the potion is ready, everyone wants to try it, but when Mackenzie tries to use it, it just doesn't work out as he expected. But when it's Bingo's turn, what Bingo wants actually happens.
And shout out.
What?
I know. It all seems like a simple coincidence, but also think about it. Why did it happen when it was Bingo's turn? There was plenty of time for this disaster to happen at any other moment, or even when everyone was fighting to try the potion. But if you're still not convinced, don't worry friends, because the next test might just convince you. Now let's discuss one of the most bizarre and unexplainable Bluey episodes. Of course I'm talking about Fairies. Well, all of this starts after the rascal bandit hurts poor Bingo's feelings.
Bingo, let me go. And it is...
When the fairies get upset and start causing chaos inside the house so that Bandit apologizes to little Bingo. And I know you might think that this whole show was planned by Bingo so that Bandit would make up with her in a fun way. But there are quite a few events that simply have no explanation and only make sense if the fairies were actually involved. Why would Bandit allow himself to be so humiliated by dancing in front of his neighbors? Or what about the magic room? Simply put, there's no reasonable explanation for all these decorations that suddenly appeared. The only thing Bingo could have done if she planned all of this, is Bandit's stinky drawing. Friends, it would have taken them hours to hang all of this up. And for most of the episode, the family is together. Really? Did they do it telepathically? And honestly, this was way too much just to teach poor the Bandit a lesson. But if you still have doubts, something you surely won't be able to explain is how certain things appeared out of nowhere. Like the stickers on the back of Bluey. Chili has a beard made of clothespins, but if you look closely, he didn't actually take any clothespins from the clothesline. And to top it all off, all these fairy circles. Also, where the heck did they get all these rocks from? Did they go to the stream and return with them? When did they do it if they were always together? This doesn't make any sense, unless the fairies really are behind all of this. And something I found really curious is the fact that everyone in the family seems to be aware that fairies do exist.
Have the fairies arrived?
Even Bandit makes a drawing to show Bluey and Bingo. And something quite strange is that Bluey mentions that the fairies are invisible. But Bingo says that you have to look for them with your heart.
But they're invisible. You have to look for them with your heart.
My heart tells me.
Tells me they're here.
Had Bingo already seen the fairies? And finally, we see the heart of love that Bingo made for Bandit, which is already put back together. And oh wow, a fairy appears! But friends, only Bingo is able to see her. Could it be that only she has this gift? Let's continue with an even stronger proof of the existence of magic, and here we see why it's so important that Bluey knows more about magic than Bingo. And I'm talking about the episode with the magic asparagus. Friends, all these ideas must have come from someone else. Chili herself is the one responsible. She has taught her daughters everything about magic, especially Bluey, and I guess it's for a very simple reason. Bluey is the oldest daughter and can understand the rules of magic better. Well, in this episode we see how Chili tells Bluey that this is a magic asparagus.
Here, this is a magic asparagus.
And Bluey. Then he passes this knowledge on to little Bingo, who doesn't quite understand whether it's a game or if it's something real. And that's probably the reason why Bingo doesn't get these magic spells right the first time. That's why Chili disguises it as a game so it doesn't get out of control. And actually, here we have other clues that lead us to think that they're not just harmless games. First of all, with this asparagus, they have the ability to transform others into any other animal. And they take their role so seriously that they even end up biting poor Pat. Who in their right mind would bite their neighbor just for playing? Or what about when Bandit is up in the tree and Bluey turns him into a walrus? Bandit falls from a height of over 2 meters just to keep playing along. I don't think so, guys. Just look at the expression Bandit makes when Bluey tells him she's turning him into a walrus. I don't think an adult would jump from that high just to please his child. It seems like everything is out of their control when they're under the effects of magic. Or are you going to tell me these behaviors aren't strange? But for those who still aren't convinced about the magic in Bluey, the evidence is becoming more and more obvious. And it's in the episode Magic Feather when everything becomes unexplainable. Here, Bingo tries to stop Chili and Bluey from going to Chloe's party, and to do this, she finds a magic feather, which makes things become much heavier than they actually are. It seems like a simple game, right? Here, Bingo goes wild and starts making everything her parents pick up really heavy. Like Bandit's cereal, his bowl, and his spoon. But the strangest thing is that when Bandit tries to lift the spoon with the broomstick, it bends because the spoon is so heavy. And this gets even weirder when the spoon is the only thing that doesn't move, but the ball next to Bandit does manage to move. Also, on several occasions, Bingo sneaks in and they don't even realize she's there, and even so, things become way too heavy. I mean, they weren't even aware of Bingo's game, and still things got heavy. Like what happened with Bluey's brush and the invitation that Chili took. And this couldn't just be a simple game made up by Bingo, because even those who didn't even know about the game were affected by the magic of Bingo's feather. And the clearest example is Pat himself, who I don't think knew that Bingo was playing and that in her game things became heavy. And even without knowing this, Pat fell when his hat became heavy and even stayed lying on the ground after Bingo had removed the heaviness from the other things. If it had just been a game, he would have simply gotten up and gone home. But the poor guy had to wait who knows how long until Bingo finally decided to remove the magic. And as definitive proof, we have the magic episode. And in this one, they make it very clear that magic does exist. Well, we see that Chili doesn't want to play with Bingo because she's busy, and it's Bluey who teaches Bingo that she can make others do whatever she wants by using magic.
Did you know there's a way to make people play with you?
Really? How? With magic?
At first, we see that Bingo has a bit of trouble understanding how the magic works, but as the episode goes on, Bingo manages to master it. Bluey uses magic to play tricks on her parents, and it even goes beyond just being a game, because Bluey gives her parents a good spanking. And as we said before, this happens because when they're under the effects of the magic, they have no control over themselves, which is why it's impossible for them to do anything and stop Bluey and Bingo. And then we see how Chili gets angry because they're using magic in a bad way. She even mentions who taught Bingo how to use magic.
Tell me, who taught you how to use magic? It was Bluey, I should have known.
Which lets us understand that Chili was the one who prepared Bluey to learn how to use this magic. This makes a lot of sense, my friends. Because when Bluey wants to keep controlling her parents, Bingo realizes that it's not right at all and joins the good side. And right when Bandit is on top of Chili, he hadn't even realized that Bingo had decided to go to the good side. And out of nowhere, he starts to get up, and then we see Bingo slowly getting closer. This doesn't make sense, since no one knew about the decision Bingo made unless they could read her mind. But something quite curious is that only Bluey, Bingo, and Chili are able to use this magic. The only time we saw Bandit use a bit of magic was in the Magic Xylophone episode, and that's why the poor guy can hardly defend himself from his daughter's mischief. He even admits himself that he would like to learn a bit of magic.
I wish I knew magic.
Did they ever tell us that the Healer family actually does have a hidden power? Was it Chili's family who practiced magic? It could be, friends, since we still have many more examples of how magic interferes with the interactions of Bluey's family. For example, in dance mode, where the girls make them always dance, no matter what situation they're in. It doesn't matter if they risk their lives in front of a traffic light or embarrass themselves inside a store. Any parent in their right mind wouldn't let this happen in any public place. Or what about the Tina episode, where Bluey and Bingo create an imaginary friend who's so big that their parents can't give them orders? I think this episode is the most violent in the whole series, since we saw how Bluey and Bingo's parents end up very hurt and beaten by this imaginary friend they created. And the game is so extreme that they even take it out to the street. And Wendy herself is shocked by what they're doing. I think the only response for a normal person is that these people are lunatics. But the final proof is in the dreams that connect the Healer family. Just like we saw in the Fruit Bat episode, here Bluey dreams that he's a bat and can fly. But during his journey, he meets his dad, who's having one of his favorite dreams. And during the episode, we have proof of that. When the two of them wake up, they realize that their dreams were connected and Bluey knew what he was dreaming about. Bandit was also seen in the Sleepy Time episode when Bluey and Bingo meet in their dream and end up bothering Bandit. Most likely, friends, those who are closest to Bluey's family already know this. Even if it's just a little about how they can master their magic. We've already seen that for Pat, it seems very normal for them to act and be that way. When he was bitten, he simply said he shouldn't have let his guard down.
I'm sorry, Loki's dad. Don't worry, Bluey. I shouldn't have let my guard down.
And when they left him with his heavy hat, he just stayed there, lying down without complaining. And now we have to talk about Bingo and her ability to not be affected by magic. Apparently, she's the only one who manages to evade magic when she doesn't like something. Maybe it's because this is the gift she inherited from Chili. But what do you think about this, friends? Do you really think that magic exists in Bluey, or is it just their imagination? We'll read your comments.